Oh, the
All
dream.
right, guys. Hey, the dream. We welcome you back to the Kenny and JT show talking about the dream, Kevin Shaheen. Figure that one out. I have no idea, folks. Kenny wrote along with JT. And we're happy to be joined. If you're watching us live on Facebook, you see him. Trucker Lindesmith, Jeff Trucker Lindesmith from Central Catholic, Marcus Wattley from Camp McKinley High School joining us here to talk some high school football with the new playoff format coming up. And gentlemen, thanks for making time for us. We appreciate it. And let's get right into it here with the announcement of 16 teams eligible in every region, every division for football coming up in 2021. And Truckers, we'll start with you on this one. Give me your thoughts as you got the word yesterday, like we all did, about them expanding to 16 teams.
Well, my first thought was I was a little bit surprised because I know we had a vote a couple weeks ago in our High School Football Coaches Association, and the ballots went and they asked about 12 or 16. Our association voted 12. And to be honest with you guys, I was in the minority there. I voted for 16 just because at the school I'm at right now, and some of the things I thought might benefit us at Central Catholic. I'm a pretty conservative guy, and I understand the traditionalists that have, and back in the day when we played, there was 4, then it went to 8, and they were talking about 12. But I always thought in the standpoint of Central Catholic and maybe some small schools that never had the opportunity up until last year to be in the playoffs, and I actually witnessed it. It was a great opportunity for some communities. We went over week 2 and played at United, a team that is not usually in the playoffs. We're having a great year. And we went over, and it was a pandemic, but apparently not to them. And there was old players. This coach said this is one of the greatest things they've had. They've got to host a playoff game. We end up beating them. And after the game, their players and their coaches came into our locker room just to talk about how the greatest experience they've ever had in their life. And so when I was thinking about voting, I was thinking a little bit about some of those smaller schools having that opportunity.
All right, let's go to Marcus here. Your thoughts on it going to 16, a bigger school, Marcus. Division I school, McKinley, in that. If you want to say how you voted, great. If you don't, that's fine. But just give me your thoughts on when this came down yesterday.
I voted for 12, but to me at 12 it didn't matter because do you really want top 4 teams getting bye weeks when everybody else is playing? As a player, I remember when it expanded from 4 teams to 8 teams in '99, and I thought it was a good thing because there were a lot of good 5 seeds and 6 seeds that missed opportunities to play games in the playoffs that were really good teams. Mm-hmm. And as you go over it, hearing what, Coach said, I see what he's saying. But, like, from our standpoint, I believe we only got 16 teams in our region. So now everybody's going to get in. And, for me, it kind of takes away the earning it pride part of pushing your kids to, you want to be a playoff team. Now you're a playoff team no matter what. So now it just becomes a seeding thing. So, in my opinion, I missed earning your way in there and battling. But I see what Coach is saying from his standpoint about other schools. For me, playoffs was always something you earned to get into. And if you didn't earn it, if you didn't get in, you didn't earn it, and it's a tough way to look at it. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that go into that decision. Last year being the year it was, I think it impacted decisions in a lot of different phases of Ohio High School Athletic Association. And with this one, it just becomes one of those situations where you couldn't please everybody. It was just not going to happen. I remember being at St. V a couple times, and the one year we missed it, we were the 6th seed. We were the 9th seed, 10th seed, but we felt like we had a pretty good team. We just played a tough schedule. So I think for that, now I feel like teams will beef their schedules up a little bit more because you're not so worried about missing playoffs and things like that. I think that'll make the regular season a little bit more interesting. But from the standpoint where it affects us is I just miss that you earn your way in there and then you gut it out because, it might change with the smaller divisions. I'm not sure if Coach agrees or not, but you don't see too many teams that come from the 8th seed and win it. You don't see too many teams that are going to be 12 seeds and win it. So what are we doing? And then you're a top seeded team and you're playing the 16th team. And every time you put your kids out there, that's a risk. No matter who you're playing, it's just a risk of your kids getting hurt and what could be a low level competitive game. So it's just different ways to look at it. Coach made some great points. I'm an old traditionalist in the way I think. Earn your way in there, get in there, grind it out. But like Coach said, I remember being at places where and seeing schools that first chances to get in, it was like you said, it's something to remember and it's something you can kind of build off of.
Totally agree with that, especially the idea of earning your way into the playoffs and not to be an old curmudgeon and say, like Trucker was saying, it was 4, it was 8, now it's 16. But what it does, and Coach Wattley, you kind of hit on this. Now all of a sudden you have to worry about, it doesn't matter who you're playing at any given time, somebody could go down and get injured. So what this does is it extends the number of games to the championship. And how is that going to affect the way that you approach getting your team ready for week 11, then 12, and then, maybe, all the way to a championship game? Do you have to think in terms of, hey, maybe I sit this player?
Go ahead, Coach.
That's okay, Marcus. Go ahead.
For me, it's I just look at it in entirety. We lose a whole week of summer and pads to get our kids acclimated and prepared for a season, and you're playing your week 1 opponent a week earlier than you expected. That's different. Now you got to play an extra week in the playoffs. That's different. Now you got to, it's going to go 16 weeks of football for these kids, plus 2 weeks of doubles. That's an 18-week season with pads for these kids. That's tough. And it's going to be whoever acclimates their kids the quickest. And it's going to be, you're going to really look at your schedule. And, it used to be you wanted to play a certain, I'm sure Coach knows the tricks about it, but you wanted to play the right kind of teams to get the right kind of points. And now you got to ask yourself, is it worth taking risks playing tough teams, or do you want your team and you're getting in, have your kids be healthy all season for the playoffs? I mean, for us, it's going to be, we want to be battle tested. We want to play some tough teams, and we're going to go through the Federal League and finish with our rival game, and then turn around and play the playoff game. And then we might walk into St. Ed's or St. Ignatius or Mentor again, and that's tough. And I think the longevity of the season for these high school kids, every time they play is a risk for them getting hurt, and they understand the risk. And as coaches, we understand the risk, but you can't say games don't matter, because I think every coach is going to want one of those home games that first round at least, just for travel purposes and a little revenue kickback for the school. And then you could be going, you're going to go all over Northeast Ohio. So it's going to be something you sit back and think about as you're scheduling, as you're making your practice schedule for the summer, as you're scheduling who you scrimmage, who you play. It's going to be how you balance that out.
Really?
Trucker, what about you on that? Where do you come out?
Hey, I always thought this, and we've made the run many times, and Coach Wattley's been part of that package. High school, 15 weeks is a grind. It's a grind, and usually the teams that end up on top are those teams that have been lucky, maybe they're prepared, but you've got to be as lucky health-wise to get through that stretch. And it's crazy that way. I mean, you're talking about as long as the Buckeyes, and when they play in 2 bowl games, and you're just like the pros, and it's a tough grind. And it's just the way they set up the playoffs last year with the extra round in the regional makes it a little bit harder. And I'll be first to tell you, I'm sure that's going to be tough, and you have to prepare your kids. But boy, you've got to be lucky to keep them healthy. And Coach Wattley had a great team where he's losing guys at the end of the year last year, and your depth is such a factor. Depth is always a factor for us here at school at Central, because we're a smaller place. When Coach was at St. V's, same kind of things. You lose 2 or 3 wrong kids, and it really sticks back. Yeah, it's over.
All right. What about, guys, the first 2 rounds? If you're the higher seed, you get the home game. Is that a bonus? If you don't like going to 16 teams, do you at least like having the first 2 games at home? And Trucker, we'll start with you and work our way back to Coach Wattley.
Absolutely. I think it's a big advantage. And Coach talked about maybe a little financial thing for your kids, for your schools, but kids are comfortable. I think it's a great opportunity to be at home. It's a huge advantage, I think, and especially with how big some of these regions are. You got people traveling. We went to Youngstown for an hour in a place where it wasn't real well lit. It was in the hills. It was real different, and our locker room was probably a half mile away, and we held hands going out of there because I was a little bit nervous from watching old movies when I was younger. So, sure, it's a big advantage.
How about you, Coach Wattley? What about that, having the first 2 maybe at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium?
I mean, it was the higher seed had the first round already. So another round, I think anytime your kids don't have to get on the bus in 20 minutes or an hour, it just saves so many things for you. It just makes things easier to plan. And, like Coach said, the regions are so big. We're in Canton. We can play teams in West Cleveland. And that's a travel, and that's a way you got to adjust your kids, not only mentally and physically, but emotionally, to sit on a bus for that long. So I think that's going to be a lot of motivation for a lot of people. And like I said about the last topic about how you schedule, you're going to want to schedule teams going to help you push yourself into that top echelon to make sure you're hosting at least the first round or possibly first 2 rounds.
You talk about scheduling. We're in a unique situation here. Trucker, you guys are an independent. Coach Wattley, you guys are in the Federal League. Does it matter one way or the other? Truck, we'll start with you.
Well, Coach Wattley all knows this already. It's hard enough for us to get 10 games. And when you are part of obviously a pretty good program where and sometimes scheduling has been tough for us just to get teams our size in. I think it might help us a little bit with some teams in our region that really have avoided us with their open dates, because their leagues usually accommodate them in getting in the top 8 seeds or maybe 12 seeds, so they're pretty good. But maybe they don't want to play us because of the competition. Perhaps they would say, okay, let's go to that level and see where we're at. And I've always said this, and it's been pretty well true. We always said if we can get in the playoffs, we've had a pretty good shot of winning some games because of the competition we play. Coach mentioned when he was at St. V's, and we've been it many times, and we're 9. If St. V's would have been 8 or Central would have been 8, I'm sure that one wouldn't have been real happy. So, I think we can play that way. So yep. I hope scheduling helps a little bit for us.
Coach Wattley, is it beneficial to the McKINLEY program to be in the Federal League?
I think it's tough because we're the biggest school in the league. We have 2 other D1 schools in the league, and our region, to get out of Region 1, I tell the kids all the time, you got out of Region 1, we got a shot, no doubt about it, because the teams that are in that region, I think a travel standpoint, but when you're talking about playing Benners, Eds, Ignatius's, Euclid's been up. Berea Mid-Park I thought was pretty tough. Brunswick.
Don't forget my Medina Bees too, Coach. Don't forget my Medina Bees.
Right? We'll see them in the summer. There's a lot of talent out there, and again, because we're the bigger school, it's hard to play up because we're the up. I feel like we're what everybody's chasing in the league. So, that was one of the reasons we beefed our schedule up a little bit this year, so we can play some teams from not just Northeast Ohio but across Ohio to get a taste of different kind of football and really challenge ourselves. So, from a location standpoint, after week 3, you kind of don't have to leave start counting for 7 weeks. It's great, but when you get in the playoffs and you're playing teams from Cleveland, all sides of Cleveland, and you could play a team in Columbus at some point. Me personally, I'd like to get a taste of some of those teams when you get a chance, and being in the league kind of hinders you that. And, a coach being an independent, he can kind of pick and choose, how to mix his schedule up so he's not getting to the playoffs and playing teams that may not be the team you play, but teams that play a certain style of football that you want to see.
Happy to have Jeff Lindesmith, head coach from Canton Central Catholic, with us on the show today, as well as the McKINLEY head football coach, Marcus Wattley, talking about the OHSAA announcing yesterday 16 teams will make the playoffs in each region, each division. So my next question, guys, is this. Do you think this is a 1-year trial period? No. Will this be reevaluated at the end of next season, or do you think this is here to stay? Marcus, I'll start with you and work our way over to Jeff after you're done.
I think it's here to stay. And, like Coach said, we all kind of voted. And I think there's more coaches that are in coach situation than in mine. I think there's a lot of teams that felt like, I was that 9 seed or that 10 seed. If we had just got in, something could have happened. And you understand that. There's a lot of teams that I think it was a team one year went 9-1, didn't make the playoffs, and they're telling themselves the team that we lost to, I believe, was the 2nd seed in that region. They're telling themselves if that's what the competition was, we had a shot to make a run. So, even though we're a bigger school, my vote counts as the same much as coaches does. So it doesn't really matter. Right. I just really feel like there's a lot more schools in his boat. Understanding, I think Coach had made great points early. There's a lot more schools in that boat than in our boat, and I feel like that's just kind of where we're.
Sure. Trucker, we'll go to you. Your thoughts. You one and done, or you think, like Marcus said, this is here for a while, or for a long time?
And I think a factor in it is financially to the state. I think that's a big
coach.
factor in it. I'm sure last year, I think I read somewhere today that it was about $2 million less than what they made in 2019. So they're having an opportunity to increase some revenue. Our schools make a little bit on playoff games, but it's not nearly as much as the state will make. So I think that's a factor for them. And so I think it's here to stay that way. I think you're getting more and more. I don't want to get political or anything, but I think sometimes our society's getting to the point in the old saying where everybody gets a trophy. They're trying to. Sometimes
it's that Oprah Winfrey adage: everyone gets a car.
Yeah, if it's right or if it's right or if it's wrong. I just think it's something that's going to be here.
Would 12? Go ahead, JT.
Was there another thing on the board that they could have adopted? Would there have been some type of a plan? Maybe you got to play 500 ball in order to make the playoffs. Was any of that on the table? Either one of you?
No. I mean, I know they did some research in some other states, and I know Michigan does like 9 games, and just about anybody that wins, I believe, Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 6 games. Everybody you get in, and maybe that's something you go at. But like I said, you could be an 0-10 team and end up facing the eventual state champs.
Yeah, right.
It's one of those deals where it's tough. It's going to be tough, and you just got to adjust for it.
Absolutely.
Here's the interesting thing about this, guys, in covering this from a media perspective. And I'm glad we had both of you guys on, Jeff Lindesmith, Marcus Wattley. Because, Trucker, your point about your school, smaller school, playing the tough schedule that you do, we all know that even though you're 3-7, 4-6, which looks like a down year based on your schedule, if you were to get into the playoffs against teams in your division, you could make a deep run. So when I heard about this, I thought of you, and I'm like, Trucker's going to be very happy that this, helps him out. Then I thought about Coach Wattley, and even going back to when Coach Reardon was there, right? And I'm seeing your, players dropping left and right because you're playing Massillon in the final week. Then you got a Division I playoff game the very next, week, and then another one after that. I think it was Solon and Mentor the one year. Yeah. Boom, boom. And I'm thinking, well, for a school like yours and the bigger schools, they probably don't like this because that puts your players more at risk of injury. So it's going to be interesting to see how this, plays out. And if they do reevaluate it based on maybe not the monetary numbers, but the injury factor. I think that might, if there's a chance that this changes somewhere down the road, it might be because of injuries, guys. We got about 2 minutes left on this. Marcus, just a quick closing thought on that and this overall 16-team playoff.
Again, I think there's more teams in Ohio that are on Coach Tuck's side, so I understand it. I do miss the old play yourself in there and earn your way in there. But I see both sides of it, and my care is for the kids, and the coach knows because he goes through it. The football season is a long season, and for us, we started in December, and we've been working since December, and we're going to hopefully work till this upcoming December for a season. That's a long time, and that's a long time for the kids to grind themselves out and play football and condition and lift weights and do everything. And people say it's just 1 week, but a lot can happen in 1 week. And we took some injuries last year, and the longer the season goes, they just kind of accumulate no matter what you do. So, again, no point to complaining. Just get on the bus and just ride it.
Trucker, your final thoughts on this?
Hey, same thing. I think most of those football coaches, they go with the flow anyway, and it's just the way they want to do it. We voiced our opinions on one way, and if it had went to 12, I'd have been just fine with that too, because I know our majority of our football coaches wanted it. But it's not that way. It's always been a grind. It's going to be a grind, but it's just the amount of preparation and certain levels and certain times you have great kids that understand how well to be prepared, and hopefully you have a team like that. And we'll see how it goes. And I wish Coach Wattley, I'll see him in a couple of weeks, but continue great training and have a good summer.
See you soon, Coach. Good health to your team and good luck. Thanks, JT. Thanks, Kenny.
Thanks, guys. And I'll miss that free gear that the Dream's going to send out to us tonight. And thank you.
Always. Hey, guys.
It's always awesome when you got the Central Catholic coaches in a humidor, the McKINLEY coaches in a math class over there. You got fractions on the wall. You got a humidor over here.
Oh, that's not fractions. That's great stuff we're working on about qualifying for the NCAA.
There you go.
make sure it's not plays or anything. We don't want to give anything out online.
That's why I got out of my office. I don't want to give nothing away.
There you go. Hey, guys, thanks for coming on with us. We always appreciate it. Continued success. Stay healthy, you and your team, and we'll talk again to you guys down the road, all right?
Thanks, Coach.
All right, there is Jeff Lindesmith, Marcus Wattley joining the Kenny and JT show here, giving you their thoughts on the 16-team playoff setup. And JT, we got about 10 seconds here. Interesting perspective from both sides, where it benefits one, maybe hurts the other, right?
What you get, that's the difference between the sizes of both schools and what they do, and one being an independent and the other one being in a conference.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll get a break in right now. We can talk more about this. In fact, take phone calls on it. 330-450-1480.